I do think the Patriots will probably win it.
Mhm.
And I will owe Keenan some money, and that's really going to hurt me. But at least he can invest in like a new home doormat or something like that. Shouts to Keenan.
Big shouts to Keenan.
I'm posting your address online, and people will show up.
This is gonna sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's Wednesday, which means, hey, the WBP's back. I'm Kyle, joined today by Timmy G. Timmy, what's up, bro?
The usual. Tired, but ready to talk ball.
I hear that, man. Mid-January, end of January, you just, you start getting tired for no reason, but I feel like we're almost over the hump here, the middle hump of winter, even though we're going to have a wild weekend. It sounds like we're going to get like -40 weather. I know below us on the East Coast, they're going to get an insane storm on Sunday, Monday. Hopefully we don't get it. It sounds like we're not going to get it, but
we were talking about this. It was pre-pod, must have been like a week or two ago. Apple needs to fix their damn app that gives you like the weather and shit. I'm telling you, it told us it was going to be fine today, and I went outside and it was like 0 degrees. It was freezing cold outside, and they were like, no, it's not till this weekend. No, it's right now. I'm cold now. So fix that shit.
Twice this week, Monday and today. No snow on the forecast. No snow as we're getting like a pretty good downfall. Like at least a few inches, and it like you said, the Apple app's like, no, it's clear out, bro. Like, you're good. And it's 20 degrees.
At, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. You're 100% right. AccuWeather is where it's at, apparently. Tim, it was an eventful weekend. Divisional weekend it delivered. It did what it was supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
And since then, from Saturday to now, to Wednesday, I feel like we've had a lot going on in the NFL off the field. And I feel like we've got a lot of topics for next season already, or the offseason for these teams that lost. So I want to touch on that. I want to touch on the coaching cycle. Before we really get into it, is there any overwhelming theme that you've gotten over the last few days from Saturday to now?
Not really.
Or better said, is there anything that's happened since Saturday that sticks out? Whether it's one of the games from divisional weekend, whether it's one of the hires, whether it's someone not going to a team that we thought, like for instance, we talked about Mike McDaniel going to the Lions. That did not happen. Anything that sticks out in general?
Yeah, I guess the Mike McDaniels thing does kind of stick out because if I'm most teams that have an open OC position, Mike McDaniels is welcome. He's proven that he can run an offense. He can design. He can scheme an offense really well and just really trick defenses. We know that that's the case. He did it every year that he was in Miami, and before that, when he was not a head coach, he was still doing that. Learn from some of the greats. So if I'm any coach, any team looking to get an OC, Mike McDaniels kind of has like almost the pick of the litter here. There are some other good OCs. I was a little surprised to see him sign with Los Angeles. Not that it's a bad fit. I think that can be great. Like it wouldn't surprise me if Herbert looks way better next year, and they're just a more successful offense next year. I just think there were more intriguing places to go. We talked pre-pod on the Lions signing Drew Petzing. I believe they signed him before McDaniels signed, so that would have been a little bit more intriguing for me if I'm Mike McDaniels to go there. And then Philadelphia would be a little bit more intriguing. I think offensively they're a little bit more talented than Los Angeles. Maybe he was like, fuck that, I want warm weather, and I'm not going to Philly. And that's really all it is. Or he's not going to Detroit. I went to Miami for a reason. I'm going to go. He was on the West Coast, I believe, and he was with Cleveland for a time, so maybe he just hates the cold. And maybe that's why they suck at playing in the cold with him as a head coach. So that could be it. So I was a little intrigued with that on like why would Los Angeles be your first choice? But either way, it could work out really, really well for them. It could be great with Jim Harbaugh there. I could understand just wanting to go there because Jim Harbaugh is like an easier coach to be underneath, you know? Um,
Extremely valid points, man. I mean, to me, it would be like Philly and Detroit would be perfect options if you're looking for an OC job. Like those jobs just don't come up that often. Funny enough, they have in those two cities in particular, but you would figure like Mike McDaniel with the Detroit Lions with all their offensive weapons, and then somewhere like Philly where it's like clearly they got the talent, but they just need some revamping. You'd figure that's two spots, but you're right. When you put it like that, when it's warm weather and it's Justin Herbert and you got a young offense over there, that is something that's like, if they're at all impressive next year, he's going to get more head coaching looks. Matter of fact, this is the most surprising thing about it to me. I think I mentioned on the pod, either last one or the one before, that Cleveland was like very interested in Mike McDaniel as their head coach if he were to get fired by the Dolphins. And that happened. And he apparently either interviewed for the Browns the other day or was about to interview for the Browns and withdrew his name from the hat and signed with the Chargers, which is very interesting. He just chose straight up OC over possibly being a top candidate, for an AFC North team. So that's very interesting to me. And I agree with you, though. I think if he turns it around, I think he'll be in a prime position for a head coaching job next year. Clearly, especially if he was in this cycle. What's most interesting about that to me doesn't even have to do with Mike McDaniel. Because again, he did at least get one offer that we know of with Cleveland. I'm shocked, man. I am absolutely shocked that Robert Saleh, just 1 year removed from being fired by the Jets, is now getting the keys to the Tennessee Titans. Or if we're gonna reverse it with with New Orleans and Louisiana, we can call them the Nashville Titans. I like that a little better. Nashville Titans. But I can't believe, man, like you got a blank slate there. Like, all right, we had a horrible season. What, they win 2 games, 3 games?
I think it was 3. I'm not positive. It's 3 because the Raiders won 3 and they have the 1.
Right.
So
Fired their head coach like what, 5 games of the season. It was an awful awful regime since they fired Vrabel. You've got legitimate head coaching candidates out there. Obviously, they didn't land Harbaugh, and apparently they were going to give Harbaugh everything he wanted. Had they interviewed with him, Giants got to him first. Whatever. You still got better candidates, in my opinion, than Robert Saleh, who did an amazing job with the 49ers defense this year, last game notwithstanding. I can't believe they pounced on him like that was some sort of prime candidate. I could see if this was 3 or 4 years down the road. I even said that on the last podcast. I could see 3-4 years down the road, like Saleh puts in the work. If he gets a few interviews, cool. He ends up getting a job, cool. But 1 year removed from being fired from the Jets, where he was mediocre at best, I was shocked by that. Genuinely shocked by that. What were your thoughts?
I thought the same thing. I actually, as soon as I saw the news, I texted the group chat and I was like, I'm not opposed to Saleh getting a head coaching position. I would have just liked it to be in a more put together organization. We saw what happens when you put him in an organization that does not run typically very well in New York, and it didn't work out. I personally don't believe the year that he got fired, he should have been fired. I think they prematurely fired him that year. I think the defense was good, and it was at the time more of a general manager issue and dispute on who they were starting that he wanted to start, and the GM wanted somebody else, and it all just led to the firing, and it was just kind of premature. However, you are pretty much moving laterally from the Jets to Tennessee, in my opinion. Maybe it's like a quarter step up, but either way, you're hiring this defensive-minded guy who is not going to have really any effect on Cam Ward. They're going to have to bring in an offensive coordinator to do it all himself, which is not what I like. So I thought that was a bad hire. Like I said, I would have been totally fine if he got hired. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Buffalo, any of those put together organizations that can be like, hey, we'll get the guys. You just got to coach them. I could understand it. But Tennessee, I just don't. I got a feeling it's going to be another year and a half firing for him. So
you trust Saleh and Baltimore or Buffalo, one of these places that's got not only established but expectations?
I would. Like I said, they're just more put together. I feel like most coaches, maybe not Buffalo, I guess, but most coaches that are going to come into either team are going to be, like you said, expected to do good, but I think they probably will do good. They're going to hire the right guy either way. And if that was Sala, then they did enough research. I trust the organization to get it
True.
done. I feel like
See what you're saying?
they've expected greatness for so long that that's just what they get. And now
Mhm.
they're, a blue blood franchise. They might not win Super Bowls, but they're going to be above 500 pretty much every year. Like this was a disaster year for Harbaugh. Nobody saw this coming, but every other year before this has been a damn good year. I expect even if the Ravens hire from within, they promote somebody or they hire some person that we just don't really know a whole lot about, I expect them to be an above 500 franchise next year.
For sure. For sure. Um, Interesting takes. Very interesting takes. I'm trying to picture Robert Saleh because I wasn't necessarily a Saleh guy in New York, but I also didn't think he was one of these hapless coaches that like couldn't connect to his players because you can see that through the TV when guys just like don't have any respect for their coach, and that didn't seem to be the case. And I agree with you. I actually do think if he stays with the Jets last year, I think they're if not a playoff team, I think they're on the bubble. I don't think it goes the complete fall off dumpster fire that it ended up being last year. The defense completely fell apart and continued to fall apart this year. Um, and hey, you mentioned the Bills. Let's get into it. Sean McDermott. How do you feel about this firing? Do you feel like it was deserved? Do you think he's going to get picked up here? Um, and actually, one last thing, because you did mention Cam Ward, I do want to touch on this. I completely agree with you. I think Salah's wrong for the Tennessee job because of Cam Ward. And I'm not usually of the camp of like, hey, you absolutely need a former OC or an offensive guy to be the head coach. But what you at least do need, if you're not going to get the OC or something like that, is someone who can run the ship, is completely able to like turn a franchise around or stabilize a franchise. That, like you said, we don't know if Salah can do. So I completely agree with you. But back to Sean McDermott. How do you feel about the firing? Do you think he gets hired immediately in this cycle? Do you think he takes a year off? And then from that, we can segue into the game because that was an absolute classic that we got this weekend from Bills Broncos. So how do you feel about Sean McDermott?
I If I was the owner GM, I probably would not have fired him. It's a luxury to have a good coach in the NFL, and you can't be a playoff team as high as a 2 seed. I believe it was like 2-5-6-5-3-2, and then they were the 6 seed this year. Are the last seedings for them in the last like 7 years or whatever. You can't get that success with a bad coach. So I kind of like I hate the firing, but I understand it. Like if they're eventually not going to get you over the hump, then you need to find somebody that can. But like I said, it's a luxury to have a good coach. So they are willing with this move to accept the fact that next year they could win 3 games with whoever they hire. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think Josh Allen's good enough to win you more than that. But if a terrible hire is made, that is a possibility. And that's not a possibility with Sean McDermott. So uh, they're swinging here. So
Mhm.
kudos to them for swinging. But like I feel like they have a walk to first base if they want it, and they're choosing to swing here. Is kind of my analogy here.
Good
I think
analogy.
I think McDermott will get picked up, and I want to see him go to Pittsburgh, and I want to see him
Uh,
take them over
uh,
the hump.
That's
I
pretty
think
good.
defensive minded coach, you're kind of following the footstep of a defensive minded coach, so the culture of the team is already there. Cold weather city, he's used to that in Buffalo. And he is a little bit more offensive minded than Tomlin, I would say. I think when it comes down to the aggressiveness of going for it on fourth down and certain things like that, um, I think that that would be a really good fit to see him go to Pittsburgh. And he was there for how many years in Buffalo? 10, probably just a little over 10, maybe. Because I
Uh,
think he
as head
predated
coach?
Allen. Yeah, as head coach.
I believe 6 or 7.
6? Okay. Huh. I would have thought it was even longer than that.
I'll double
Either
check.
way,
I'll double check.
I I feel like McDermott could be another 2-decade coach for Pittsburgh, and that's kind of what Pittsburgh wants. Like they've only had 3 head coaches in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
My football team has had 3 head coaches in the last 10 years. So like that's an amazing thing to do, and that's kind of what they're looking for. And I think that's exactly what McDermott could be. Because if you just kind of like analyze Buffalo in Pittsburgh, they're kind of like the same team, but Buffalo is better. You know, they make the playoffs every year, but they win playoff games and then they lose before the Super Bowl. But you are still making the playoffs every single year. So, like,
So let me give you the rundown. You're close. 9 seasons from Sean McDermott, okay? 1 losing season, which was his second season. So since his second season, nothing but winning seasons. 66% winning percentage in the NFL. Completely agree with you, man. You said it. I couldn't say it any better. Like, having a good coach in the NFL is a luxury.
mhm.
I was surprised that they fired him, first off. If you told me that was going to happen if they were to lose against the Broncos like beforehand, I'd have been like, okay, must be they lost by a lot, right? Maybe they got blown out 2 or 3 touchdowns, something like that. But if you're telling me it was another circumstantial loss, in this case, actually, I think a lot of it's on Josh Allen and a lot of it's on the defense
Mhm.
in this case, and we'll talk about the
Absolutely.
game. We'll talk about the game, but if you would have told me it's a close game, they lost by 1 score, they lost, within the final minute, I'd say, okay, he deserves to be on the hot seat, but maybe next year, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe next year's the year if they can't quite get it done, or if they're fighting for their lives, or he has a John Harbaugh type season. This one to me is a worse firing than Harbaugh. You and I both thought that maybe John Harbaugh could have got another year or should have got another year with Baltimore. Um, he at least got a Super Bowl, and we've at least heard grumblings from people around Baltimore that, all right, maybe the players aren't, or maybe he's not getting through to the players in Baltimore. Whatever. We did not hear any of that in Buffalo. And
In
another point,
fact, we heard the opposite. As soon as he was fired, like the whole team took to Twitter and was like, "This is the dumbest league in the world. They don't understand how good this guy is, and you guys are just letting him go. You're actually forcing him to leave. You guys do not make any sense." Um, I think what's happening is their GM is too buddy buddy with the owner, so they've both kind of
we'll talk about that too.
created this world where they can't do wrong, and it must be their other problems. Because there was a report saying that McDermott was criticizing the roster before that game that week, saying that they were missing quite a few keystone pieces. One being a wide receiver one, and then defensively they were a little thin on the corners and back end, even though they have a good pass defense. All valid points, completely valid. Like you could ask any person that watches football and you would say, like, if you could upgrade one part, what would you do? I think most people would say wide receiver. And then after that, it would be like, okay, let's get a little bit more defensive firepower. None of that was fixed by the GM or owner. Uh, so that blows my mind that they're like, no, this roster's good enough to win. It's clearly not. And then the owner came out and said, I fired Sean for what happened in Denver, meaning that game alone was what caused him to fire him. Have you fired Josh Allen yet? Like, have you traded him away for 3 first-round picks because he clearly can't get it done? Because that's what happened.
I actually
4
didn't even hear
turnovers
that
is
quote.
gonna.
That's my first time hearing that quote. That's kind of mind
Yeah,
blowing. That's pretty
he
inept.
had a quite a long press conference, quite a few quotes coming out of that are like a little concerning as an owner of a football team.
The biggest one to me, and I don't know if this was the owner or the GM, the fact that they were talking about Keon Coleman like he wasn't on the team, and they were like, yeah, that wasn't his draft pick, or we gave him a pass for that. I thought that was comical. I thought that was a joke. I'm worried. That alone made me worried about the Bills and Josh Allen's future, just because I mentioned this the last time Keenan was on with us. The biggest thing to me about Sean McDermott isn't only that, all right, this is a good team since he's took over. This is a good team and they're getting rid of him. That's bad enough to me. I always think that's short-sighted when NFL teams do that. That's bad enough. Before Sean McDermott, man, the Bills were a joke. They could not get it together. They could draft talent. They constantly had talent. They could never get QB or head coach correct. And now they're sitting here talking about the likes of Anthony Lynn, who was just an average coach, and Sean McDermott clearly raises your floor. That's the thing about a good head coach. They raise your floor, a quarterback raises your ceiling. Okay, you got that with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. And you talk about the roster, I agree with you. They got a lot out of this roster, which has its imperfections, and it's going to a Josh Allen's contract. But man, like, what do they actually think they're going to get that's better out here? I could see if they fired him while Harbaugh was still available, then okay. All right, then you're making a lateral move, and we'll see. I don't know who they're going to get that's much better than Sean McDermott. Tomlin's clearly not coming out this year.
I can tell you who they're going to get, but
Who
it's
you
not
think?
better than Sean McDermott.
Who do you think
I
they're
think
getting?
Mike McCarthy is a Buffalo Bill head coach next year.
I wouldn't mind that. I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
mind that.
mind it, but it's absolutely not better than Sean McDermott.
I don't think it's a downgrade. I don't think it's an upgrade either, but I would like that much better than Anthony Lynn. If they go in the
That's
direction
fair.
of Anthony Lynn or
Anthony Lynn would be a joke. That would
that's what
be
I'm saying.
just sell the franchise now. Don't even
That's-
move into the new stadium. Just tear it down.
That's what I'm saying. And that's kind of why I said what you said in the group chat a couple weeks ago about maybe Mike McDaniel going to the Ravens. I was like, I like Mike McDaniel as a coach, but to me that would be a joke because that's a clear downgrade from Harbaugh. I actually like him as a coach, but from a Hall of Fame level or close to a Hall of Fame level coach, I want to give Harbaugh Hall of Fame because it's hard for a coach to get in. But an elite level coach in John Harbaugh to Mike McDaniel, that would be tough. But however, going from Sean McDermott, who we can both agree, elite level coach in today's NFL, to Anthony fucking Lynn, who is okay. He's probably on the Todd Bowles kind of side of things, but not a great coach. Base level good, but again, we talk about good coaches raising your floor. Anthony Lynn's not going to raise your floor by any means. Josh Allen's going to have to play superhero much more than he already has been. So again, we talk about the owner and the GM. That makes me super worried if they're getting full of themselves here and think it's more them than Sean McDermott. Because, man, this actually reminds me a lot of the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau after this past year. It seemed like a year too early for them to fire Tom Thibodeau. I don't know, man. I'm kind of worried. They're going to get lucky here because I don't think the Dolphins are going to be good by any means next year. And we know the Jets aren't going to be good for who knows how long. So
facts.
they're going to be able to be second by default. And maybe they can overtake the Pats next year in the division. Who knows? Let's talk. I'll let you respond to that. And then I got a few things I want to say about the Buffalo Bills as well. That in regards to the game.
I kind of just wanted to say that when I'm like, if I was a head coach interviewing for this position, seeing that press conference that the owner just had, I would be worried because coming into this position, I would be like, yes, you guys are a great football team. You could have gone to a Super Bowl this year. You could have probably won a Super Bowl this year if all things fell right. But there are things that need to be fixed, not just from a coaching perspective, from a GM perspective. Like you mentioned, the Josh Allen contract. You kind of are loading yourself up on Josh Allen, and you're not able to get a lot of star talent after that. They also just don't go get star talent. Like their big free agent acquisition this year was Brandon Cooks, and it happened halfway through the season. So like, I'm a little worried if you're going into that meeting and you're saying like, yeah, I think with a few changes we can make them, and they're just basically saying, no, I think this roster right here is good enough. So that's what you're going to get. I'm a little worried for that on whoever that is. Because I don't know many coaches that are going to be able to take a defense that played like that to a Super Bowl. So,
yeah, man, I'm definitely more concerned about the defense than the offense. I'm kind of the mindset you can kind of get by with, I don't want to say average receivers because that's not true. You got to at least have above average offensive talent. But like, for instance, growing up, the three best receivers in the league when I was a kid was Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, and Marvin Harrison in some order. Combined, they have one Super Bowl win, and it's the guy who played with Peyton Manning. Probably 3 combined Super Bowl appearances if you count Moss in that undefeated year, and then I think Harrison got to the Super Bowl twice, and Terrell Owens once. So four Super Bowl appearances. Like, it's a little overrated to have an elite receiver as far as being a Super Bowl champ. There's probably less elite wide receivers that have a ring than we would think, right? That being said, man, like, they got to put this defense together. we'll talk about the game again because, again, I think the defense was more to blame than anybody. And then second would be Josh Allen on my list. But coming out of this game, and I want to know how you felt coming out of this game with another devastating loss for Buffalo. I was talking to my friend Sandy. She's an OG Warner Brothers podcast listener. So shouts to Sandy. She's a big Pats fan. And she was basically like, look, I don't understand why people give the Bills so much love. I don't understand why they get so much grace when they lose these games. She's like, I don't think they have that dog in them. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, they definitely have the dog in them. That's why they get so much respect, is because they can go toe-to-toe in these games. It's just kind of circumstantial when they lose. I would say this game notwithstanding, because I think they actually lost this game. It was heartbreaking nonetheless, but they actually lost this game. But I mean, you know, they've had wide right and they've had 13 seconds. Like, they've just had some horrible losses. So I'm interested in what you thought coming out of this game, because again, huge Pats fan, so they're in the division. I don't necessarily hate the Bills, but I actually found myself feeling bad for them when they lost this game. And I did not expect to feel that way necessarily. That's not just because I had money on them to win the game either, but I genuinely was like, holy shit, like another one of these. And people are going to focus on the Brandon Cooks play, which is fair. And we will definitely talk about that because I have a lot of thoughts on that. But what was your feeling? Triple zeros hit, game's over. Broncos are officially in the next round. This is, of course, before we get the Bo Nix injury news. What's your immediate feeling for the Bills, for Josh Allen, what you just watched? How did you feel?
My first thought was, wow, we really had like one of the greatest QBs of the 2010s on in Josh Allen, and his Super Bowl window was never truly open. Like, to be honest, it never opened in the first place. They are just an exit every single year. I don't think he gets a Super Bowl. I don't think he gets one in Buffalo, at least.
Really?
Like, it's just going to keep happening over and over and over again. There's some sort of controversial thing, whether it's right or wrong, that's going to happen to them every single time. And this one, did the controversial thing like affect the game at the end? Of course. Is that why they lost the game? No, not even close. There were 50 other reasons why they lost the game, and most of them go back to Josh Allen. So coming out of that game, I was thinking, wow, Josh lost him that game, not Brandon Cooks, not Tre'Davious White on the pass interference, not the other pass interference that put him into field goal range in the first place. Josh Allen lost that football game. Just letting them get the field goal before the half is enough to lose them that football game.
That was
then
awful.
Guess what? You are now leading by 3 points. If that 3 points was 3 points the other way on that drive, you're now leading by 6 points. This is a completely different football game, Josh, but you decided that 15 yards past the line of scrimmage, you still need the ball in one hand like you're going to throw it, and then you threw it backwards 20 yards?
Awful.
That blew my mind when that happened. And I was like,
as amateur of the play I've ever seen. Anywhere.
100%.
Anywhere.
Exactly.
I couldn't believe that. Let's go back, because you said like the owner said he made this decision on this past game. Let's say that decision was Sean McDermott's, which I guess it was, to, with no timeouts, try to go up the field when they don't really have a chance to get in field goal range. Okay, fine. Let's say that was completely Sean McDermott's decision, his reasoning. That's fine. Exactly like you said, though, man, what the fuck is Josh Allen doing where he's got the ball in one hand and is trying to lateral and doesn't even know if the position player is behind him? I could not believe that. That's like Cam Ward on the Titans type shit. Like, that's some stuff that would happen for the Titans this year with how awful they've been. Like, what is he thinking? They gave up 3 there. Broncos go and kick a field goal, and how many points did they lose by? A field goal. So, I mean, that was pretty much the game to me, because you gave away 3 free points. I can understand not kneeling. I can even understand trying to make something happen by rushing. You're putting yourself in injury, but okay, Josh Allen, he doesn't really take too many dirty hits, whatever, but trying to lateral and actually trying to get points out of that situation where there's a 0.1% chance that you're scoring there, unreal. That's the ball game right there, on top of everything else that happened. Let me ask you about the Cooks play, because that was obviously a huge topic of discussion in our group chat and, of course, across the NFL landscape overall. How do you feel about that play? Can you call it either way? Because I'm having trouble calling it either way.
It's fair to have trouble calling it either way because the NFL doesn't even know how they call it, like,
Oh
on
my
a
god.
play-by-play basis. I've sent you a video in the Bills-Patriots game this year, this pretty much exact play happened,
Uh-huh.
and they ruled it a catch.
Uh-huh.
Last year in the playoffs, Bills-Chiefs, this same play happened with Xavier Worthy, and they ruled that a catch, but this one, they did not rule a catch. So, like, that part is what I can understand being confused by. I believe at the time I was saying it was a catch. He had the ball, he came down by contact, blah blah blah. Looking back on it now from like an unbiased opinion, because at the time I definitely wanted the Bills to win. But letter of the law, it's an interception because he didn't survive the ground. He never had possession before going to the ground. So then at that point you need to survive the ground. People are saying, well, Devonte Adams did it in the Bears game. No, they're showing you the last part of the Devonte Adams catch. They don't show you the part where he caught it, took 2 steps, then went to the ground.
Mhm.
Possession was deemed from the 2 steps. Brandon Cooks caught the ball falling to the ground. Uh, so he did not have possession at any point of this catch. Did he not actually possess the ball? Um, that's where the problem is to me, is the word possession. If this catch happened in the end zone, it's a touchdown because you're in the end zone. As soon as you have possession and you touch the ground, the play is dead. There is no defender rolling over you and stealing the ball from you. If this play happened on the sideline, this is a catch because he catches it inbound, gets the knee down inbound, then rolls out of bounds, and the ball gets ripped out while he's out of bounds. They need to have a clear, this is possession, this is not possession. Um, the touchdown where Broncos took the lead or tied it up, I believe where they took the lead. Yeah, where they took the lead. He catches it while he's kind of being tackled, and he takes 2 steps, but he is falling in the process of him taking the 2 steps.
Mhm.
And then he hits the ground. And if you go and look at it, he bobbles the ball when he hits
Ball
the
bobbles
ground.
a little bit, yeah.
And you can clearly see it. It dislodges from his hand. There's a big gap in between his hand and the football. They're calling that a touchdown because I guess the 2 steps of him going to the ground determined possession. To me, he didn't maintain possession really any more than Brandon Cooks did. Like, the 2 steps don't really matter because he is actively being tackled, taken to the ground. I'm just confused on what possession is nowadays. Like, we're we're just gonna have this back and forth every single time it happens. And it seems like it's gonna happen in the playoffs where we're getting the most light shined on it every single time. So
It's crazy because this play comes up a lot during the season. Across the years, this play comes up a lot. Um, I got secondhand pissed off again because I didn't even remember that Xavier Worthy play from last year. It especially pissed me off because it looked like the Bills player got there first on the interception. Like, it seemed like they had possession first. Worthy then tries to jostle possession, and then they just give the possession to the Chiefs. They ruled that a catch. Whatever. This one confuses me so much because when it happened in that Bills Pats game where the Bills came back, I was just as confused then. I was like, I can't call it either way. Right. And like you said, there's no clear ruling from the NFL on it. Like, there is something in the rule book where it's like, yeah, they got to survive the ground. Yeah, I get it. But they do not call it consistently. You just said, like, if that happens in the end zone, they call it a touchdown. I can't even say that confidently. Sideline, I agree with you. Touchdown, man, it seems like they make up whatever. Um, in particular, why this catch was so confusing to me. Catch, non-catch, whatever. He gets it. He does hit the ground with his knee. He hits the ground with his knee, turns over. The guy falls on him. At that point, when he's touched, he solely has possession. It's when they flip over that then the Broncos player then has possession. That's what kind of makes it confusing because you can definitely make a strong argument that it's 1-2 and then down. You can't make the argument for a football move, and that's where the Broncos player would have the advantage there, would have the argument. What was super interesting to me was after this game, Richard Sherman on Twitter said that's a catch. He said, the NFL I grew up, or the NFL I played in, I completely expect most DBs to take the DB side. And he said that's absolutely a catch. And I can't remember who quote tweeted him. It was another DB. It might have been someone like Patrick Peterson. And they agreed with him. They said, yeah, when we were playing, that was absolutely a catch. Again, I can't call it either fucking way. To me, if you told me it's an interception, I agree with you. If you told me it's a catch, I agree with you. But it happens entirely too much in the NFL for it not to be a clear and concise rule. And I get it. It's a tough rule to do. It's a bang bang play. But they didn't even take but 30 seconds to review it after when McDermott challenged. That I didn't understand. Let's go with this, man, because we haven't even really touched, aside from this game, we haven't touched on divisional weekend. Let's talk more about this game, what we saw, because we do got to talk about the Broncos too. So let's slightly touch on these games. And then I want to talk about each of the losers and their offseason outlook. So we'll start obviously here and we'll continue here. We've mentioned this a few times, right? The defense giving up that 3rd and 11, Bills defense late in the game, giving up a 3rd and 11, and then giving up a score deep. I thought that was atrocious. If you want to blame Sean McDermott for that, and if you're going to fire him for that, I still don't agree with it, but I kind of understand it. I thought that was atrocious. I don't think that happens if it's the Chiefs or the Patriots, if we're making comparisons, right? I can't even imagine that happened to the Ravens. Like, you can't let someone get that deep on you in 2 key plays there. And then, of course, we talked about Josh Allen. So what did you think of on the Broncos side of things, of Bo Nix taking advantage? Obviously, we have the Bo Nix injury after. Did they show you anything in that game going toe-to-toe with the Bills? And then, of course, what do you think their outlook is against the Pats here with a backup QB?
Yeah, I think I definitely was a little bit impressed by them being able to score 30. I thought that would have been reaching, but they got there and they kind of earned every point, it seemed, forcing turnovers to put him in a good position, but then the offense was capitalizing on it. I thought it was pretty ballsy going for a touchdown strike from that far out. But if the Bills are willing to let somebody go in man coverage like that, they deserve to be scored on. Because there was one person going deep on that play, and they had a safety back there. He just wasn't covering it. So that blew my mind. First thing I texted the group chat was they literally just ran a safety so deep for him to just not cover anybody. He was just standing back there, like on the goal line, pretty much on the other side of the field. I'm like, what defense are we running here?
And somehow got turned.
Yeah. So that was just shocking that they really did fall apart. Like, game on the line, they just fell apart time and time again, play after play. The first pass interference call on Courtland Sutton, the defensive pass interference on Courtland Sutton, you could argue that one shouldn't have been called. And that one was more pivotal because I think that one was either 3rd and 11 or 4th down. So it was like, pretty much need to make this or we're changing our outcome of the game. That one you can argue because they weren't really calling that all game, just hand fighting, kind of hit his arm on the way up. But Sutton really didn't have a good look on the ball in the first place, so you'd have to argue, was it catchable in the first place? All these things. The second one on Tre'Davious White, yeah,
Clear
that's
as
pass
day.
interference.
Clear as day.
And what pissed me off was he gets up and starts shouting at the ref, throws his helmet down, screaming in his face, as if he didn't commit pass interference. My brother, you were tackling the man before the ball got there. And then when the ball did get there, you're like lying on top of him on the ground. It wasn't even arguable if it was pass interference or not.
Textbook PI.
And like, they were already in field goal range. The only mission is don't get beat. And they got beat. Both of them did. So like, that's on them. I know I'm talking more about the Bills here. It's just, I just wasn't expecting the Broncos to be taking these shots all game long and getting them to go in their favor. So I think that surprised me a little bit. I think they can win this game against the Pats. It's gonna take everything, man. It's gonna take a real defensive effort. Home field advantage is gonna have to play in for them. Like, they need Stidham to just not be CJ Stroud, and they can pretty much be in one score, I think. I'm not counting them out. I understand why they're an underdog at home in the AFC Championship. I totally get it. The Pats are a good team, and you just lost your starting quarterback. They might get J.K. Dobbins back. He's not going to be, a 20 carry guy, but he can still spell the running back, spell Harvey to get him some pieces here. So I don't think that they're just out of this game. I think that was one thing that people were thinking as soon as Bo Nix was ruled out. They were like, oh, well, this is the Patriots, luck for them. they've had the easiest schedule all year, and then they get the Chargers first round. They get 4 interceptions from C.J. Stroud in the second round, and now they get a backup QB in the third round. I don't think it's that easy of a game to win. I think the Broncos will bring this one to the wire. I do think the Patriots will probably win it. And I will owe Keenan some money, and that's really going to hurt me. But at least he can invest in like a new home doormat or something like that. Shouts to Keenan.
Big shouts to Keenan.
I'm posting your address online, and people will show up. So, yeah, I think the Broncos can win. It wouldn't surprise me if they would win, but it would take, like I said, it would take a lot of things happening. Because to be completely frank with you, the Patriots offense hasn't been playing as good as they were all season in the playoffs. In the first round, they were stale. And then in the second round, they had their problems with turnovers. They have a lot of things that they need to clean up. And the Broncos defense isn't just an easy defense to play against. So
let's go straight to the Pats. Talk to me about the Pats. What have you seen out of these first 2 rounds that you like and what you dislike? Because I think I would have much more that I dislike than I like out of these first 2 rounds. So
I agree.
What have you seen?
I think both games are different from each other. So in the second game, dude, I'm blanking on his name. Will Campbell. Got to clean some stuff up. I get it. First week, you're going against Khalil Mack, one of the most seasoned veteran defensive player of the years in the league. But you got to clean some stuff up. Second round, you're going against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson.
They lived
all
in the
three of
backfield.
those guys.
They lived in the
all
backfield.
3 of those guys were living in the backfield. They weren't even paying rent either. So, like, they got some stuff to clean up offensive line wise. They got to give May the time. He needs to not have so much pressure on him because that was against the Texans. That's really the reason why he fumbled so many times. It wasn't him like making costly fumbles. It was just that he was pressured. And one of the fumbles came on him like about to release the football. You know, he was a millisecond away from having an incomplete pass. Can't really put that on you. Just need better offensive line play. And that was definitely a key in the Chargers sticking around for so long. They were getting offensive line, or they were having offensive line issues against the Chargers defense too. So got to clean that up, which is a point in the Broncos' favor because they always are up there in sacks when it comes to the end of the season. Like that could be how they wreck this game. Maybe they have 3 or 4 sacks and a couple turnovers off of it. If they can clean that up, I think the Patriots could win handedly. I like what I've seen from Booty. He was making some crazy catches in this game. Stephon Diggs still looks fine.
Unreal.
It's just like they'll get these good plays, and then the drive just kind of ends in a field goal is what I feel. Like that happened a lot against the Chargers, like a play here, a play there, and then we're kicking for 3. So we just you gotta clean up the offensive line play and convert and, you know, score some touchdowns here for the Patriots because it's definitely been lackluster. Like Drake May hasn't played bad football, but he hasn't played as great as he was all year. This is an MVP Drake May right now.
Tim, I feel like you're being nice there. I would say he hasn't even played good football this postseason so far.
I think Keenan would say he's played good, not great. And you're a little bit more glass half full.
I'm like right in the middle with this Pats team.
Yeah, exactly. You're not expecting the world kind of deal.
Let's go back to I think it was week 13, Thanksgiving week, when you and Keenan initially made this bet. The Pats at that point, they had the Bills coming up, they had the Ravens coming up, and I think they had divisional games. It seems like they had one more in there that could have gone either way. But in particular, they had the Bills and Ravens left. And you were big on that they were going to lose those games. Keenan was big on that they were going to win those games. I, as you can hear, was kind of in the middle. And my whole point was, I know this is a really good team. I know they're well coached. I just don't know how good they are yet. So I can't wait to watch these games. And you could see on like the games we picked, I definitely picked against them in the Bills game, mainly because I would have said that's a split anyway. I would have picked that a split at any point in the season. I'm sure I said that in the AFC East preview, preseason. Ravens game, I can't even tell you who I picked. I honestly don't remember. But That game happens. That's a close game. It's a good game. Ravens at some points are kind of actually having the Pats number. And then what happens? Lamar goes out, right? So we didn't really get a definitive answer. May was really good in the second half in that game. He took advantage of, having Lamar out. And I thought Huntley actually played okay in the second half. But it was just one of those games for the Ravens that they had all season. And we could kind of look back on that for the Pats and say whatever, except now this whole thing happens with Bo Nix. And like I've gotten a few times this week, people are like, hey, you must be happy that your Pats have gotten the red carpet to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, honestly, I'm not. I really wanted to see this team tested. And I feel like since you and Keenan made that bet in week 13, the only time they got tested was against the Bills and they actually lost that game. And there was a controversial play, as we said, the 50-50 ball that kind of swung that game, whatever. But the other test would have been the Ravens. Lamar gets hurt. The next test would have been the Texans to me because I expect them to beat the Chargers with them having both starting tackles out. So, hey, you get, I won't call him elite. We'll say a great quarterback in Justin Herbert without 2 starting tackles at home in cold weather against a Cali team. I expect to win that game. And I expect it to be, if not a rout, an ugly victory like they had, a defensive game like they had. Drake May didn't really bring it that game, but he made key plays. Fine, whatever. Game went how expected. Texans game that's a team who I was afraid of all year, especially down the stretch. I thought they were a bad matchup for the Pats. Now you're telling me they're going to lose their only weapon of consequence, like the only guy who can really get open for them. They're going to lose him. Okay, we're beating the Texans all day. And guess what? The Texans were in that game till the end. Or not till the end, but despite all of CJ Stroud's turnovers, they're in that game because that defense is top notch. And maybe even a level above top notch, if I'm being honest. They were incredible in that game. They made Drake May suffer in that game. He had that great play to Booty. And like you said, Stephon Diggs had some key catches in that game. But that's a 50-50 game if Nico's playing, regardless of how shaky CJ Stroud was. And first, let me give props, too, to the Pats defense because I think they've brought it all postseason. Vrabel has got that defense playing amazing, right? So let me give them their props there. The offense has not looked up to snuff. Where during the season, you would have said the offense looks great, the defense is second fiddle. It's flipped. So the fact that we got the Chargers with 2 tackles down, then we get CJ without the only weapon of consequence. Like he truly would have made that game a different game in Nico Collins. And then now we get the Broncos without Bo Nix at home. I agree with you. I think they're going to make this a game, but I would be more than shocked if the Pats lost this game, especially when you combine the fact that who was Stidham's OC when he was a backup in New England? Josh McDaniel. So he's going to have tons of intel on Jarrett Stidham and all his weaknesses. So that being said, the times we have seen Stidham play in Denver, he's looked pretty good. And this team, a big part of why we picked them to, or at least a big reason why I picked them preseason to win the division and, be a factor in the playoffs was regardless if Bo Nix is their weak link, this team's got so much talent and they're so well coached, they can rise above. Will that happen with Stidham? We'll see. I fully expect the Pats to win. And honestly, man, I mean, yeah, I'm happy they're going to make another Super Bowl. It looks like that. But to not be tested from, I don't know what, week 6 on, truly, you got one test in the Buffalo Bills in week 14 or 15. That was it. I don't know, man. It's kind of bittersweet. And honestly, a little more bitter than sweet. Because then what happens if they play the Seahawks or Rams and get their ass kicked?
I was just going to say, the best part of this whole thing is there's a good chance that they run into a buzzsaw in the Seattle Seahawks defense. It might be bad.
Again, and I don't think Drake May's phony at all. I'm not saying he's not lived up to the par at all, but that offense has not looked at all what they looked like during the regular season. In part because they're playing good defenses. That's no problem. But hey, if he comes out again, let's say it's like a 16-10 game or something like that against the Broncos this week, and they kind of just sneak by and Drake May, yes, makes the plays he needs to. That's fine, but it's not. I'm not looking at these plays that Drake May's making, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's like when Tom Brady was throwing for 0 touchdowns, but making the plays at the end of the game. It doesn't quite have that same feel to it. And again, I think this Pats team's a really good team. I can't for sure say they're great. And I don't know either way because they really haven't played anybody. So it's been a super weird season for me.
Definitely. I think if they play Seattle in the Super Bowl, that could be just a rude awakening. Like it could go. That one I would not surprised if just the defense alone wins them the game by 2 scores. I don't think I would predict it that way, but that Seattle versus Denver Super Bowl, I don't think anybody would have predicted it that way either. And that very well could happen here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think they're well coached enough to where they wouldn't get necessarily killed by the Seahawks or Rams, but at the same time, they're due. They're absolutely due for that sort of game because they have been. Again, I don't want to make it seem like it's just been all green and easy for them since October, but it's been easier than most teams, and they've been flourishing in that. So, they haven't had many games where you say, all right, it looks questionable there up until really these last two playoff games, which is a testament to them to some degree. Let's move on from the AFC. Let's go to the NFC. What was the first game? So Seahawks, 49ers. What did you think of the Seahawks? We don't really have to spend too much time on them because that game was over pretty quickly. But what did you see out of that game that stuck out to you?
The offense, while they did end up scoring, it started a little slow. I thought they would start a little hotter than that. When you start with a kick return touchdown to open the game, it's hard to like top that. So maybe I'm just a little biased in that sense, but defensively, hell yeah. Like they're good to beat any team defensively alone. They might not be on, like I might rank the Texans over them, but I don't know. I still think I'd put them like pretty close.
I was just about to ask you. So rank Seahawks, Texans, Broncos defense. How would you rank them?
Broncos last for sure. I think I would go Texans first. It would go Texans, Seahawks, Broncos. The main reason I was saying that the Seahawks might kill the Patriots in the Super Bowl is because I expect a little bit more out of the Seahawks offense than I do out of the Texans offense. I think there is an argument to be had about CJ Stroud and that he's kind of just living off of his rookie year hype. I heard a stat today that off target rate among starting QBs in the league, he was 30th this year, 31st last year, 32nd the year before. That's not a good thing to be off target on a lot of your throws. And I had mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, when he targets Nico Collins, he's great. When he targets anybody else, he's not good at all. That was kind of the case in this game. He was targeting not Nico Collins, and he was bad all game long.
In defense of him, only with this, I don't think anybody else on that offensive roster can get open necessarily. That's the one thing with Nico, he creates separation. So that's the only grace I'll give him because otherwise he was completely shaky. I know we're talking about Seahawks Niners here, but I did want to ask you, would you have brought in Davis Mills at any point in that game when it was still within reach?
So that was on my mind, and I had said that to one of my friends today, and he said that they actually couldn't have brought in Davis Mills because he had an injury. And I remember seeing him on the injury report, like a neck injury or something.
Okay.
So I think their hand was forced. I don't think that they were available to move in with Davis Mills. And if it wasn't Davis Mills,
let's say he was healthy.
If he was healthy,
and you're the head coach,
absolutely.
Really? At
Absolutely.
halftime, or would you gave Stroud a little bit there in the third quarter, like one drive?
The first pick in the second half, I would have been like, all right, that's it. That's enough. We don't need any more of that. Like, you've already negatively impacted the game enough.
Okay.
Davis Mills can't do much worse than you.
Okay.
At this point. Because Davis Mills beat the Bills. Like, that offense scored 20-something points on the Bills, and that was enough. He literally played the part of game manager, let my defense be great. And he did that. They were on a 3-game win streak with Davis Mills at the helm. And then CJ Stroud came back and just kind of carried on with the win streak. So as soon as he threw his first pick of the second, because 2 of those picks, man, were just so bad. Like, where are you throwing the ball bad?
Yes.
One of them bounced, so like I can give him that on one of them not being on him. But 2 of the 4 were just, oh my God, dude. Who are you throwing it to? You're like 4 yards behind and 2 yards up the field to the defender. That's where the other team is, man. Like, what are we doing? So, yeah, at that point, I would have been like, yeah, like literally Davis Mills cannot hurt us any more than CJ Stroud already has at this point.
Any more on the Seahawks?
It sucks that Charbonnet is out.
Mm.
I think I heard torn ACL. That really is a bummer. I don't have much on the Seahawks. I will say the 49ers, the train just ran out of steam. They were able to keep it going all the way, and then they just still can't get over like the injury luck. Like they lost pieces in this game. It's just so sad to see, man, that this goddamn Energy Power Stadium, whatever it's called next door, is really just siphoning their team. That's insane.
Not just the Niners, bro. The the Warriors. There was a couple.
Oh.
I think McCaffrey and someone else was at the game. Forgive me if I got the players wrong, but there was a couple Niners at the Warriors home game the other night. And what happens? Jimmy Butler tears his ACL. So it is not limited to the San Francisco 49ers, apparently.
It's contagious.
It apparently is. The radiation got him, bro. Real quick, it's interesting because I don't love the Seahawks running game with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. And I actually like Kenneth Walker quite a bit, but they're not necessarily flashy runners. And they're not especially like, I don't know, but they find a way to carve you up somehow.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. I think the Charbonnet loss is going to be bigger than what it seems because he's pretty unremarkable. Just if you're watching him or if you look at his stats, like he's pretty ho-hum. Definitely not below average, but he's just, a ho-hum guy. But
yards per carry wise, he is below average. He gets good touchdowns, and Kenneth Walker's almost in the same boat. Kenneth, I feel like every time he touches the ball, he's trying to hit the home run. Even when like 7 yards is available, he'll try to take the route that could get him 90, and that hurts him. That's why he doesn't see the field as much. That's why Charbonnet is on the field so much. So I think this is an actual hurt. Because if you don't have that running back that's in there willing to take the free 7 yards and make it an easy second down, then that can change the game for him.
Listen, we got 2 classics this weekend. Real quick, what is Charbonnet's yards per carry? So like below 3.5? Is that what we're talking with below average? I'll let you look that up while we get to this Rams-Bears game, all right? We got 2 classics this weekend with Bills and Broncos. Bears-Rams was the other one. That was an incredible game. I was rooting for the Bears. I thought they had a real chance. We get the Caleb Williams incredible 4th down play that turned what could have been a 15-yard touchdown into a 40-yard touchdown. Wild game. I want to hear your thoughts on the Los Angeles Rams and them escaping death essentially in this game. Cold weather, they got through it. It did not seem to affect them at all, truly. What did you think of the Rams showing in this game?
I think the cold weather got to him a little bit, but I really don't think that was like a major influence here. This game I didn't catch the full game. I think I missed whatever reason they decided to move both games up this Sunday by an hour, and I just completely blanked. So I caught the first one a little late, and then at like 7:45, I was like, "Wait, is the football game on right now?" So then I threw it on, and I think at that point they were already up like 7-0. So, yeah, I'm getting a little worried. Like there were definitely quite a few drives, especially I was talking about this earlier, overtime. I feel like we normally are used to seeing somebody score on their first drive in overtime, and the Rams just didn't look like they wanted to score. They get the ball, then they punt, and then they get the ball back, and then I think they punted again. It was just slow, it seemed.
So you're a take the ball second in OT guy, aren't you? Judging for
I'm definitely a take the ball second. I want to know how many points I need to win the game.
Which I understand. That's completely like reasonable. But I think I'm of the mindset I would want the ball first and to dictate the pace in overtime. And then you can get the ball back, possibly, but then you have to get a stop. That is the downside. So I do get what you're saying there. But
I think it does kind of change on a gamely basis. Like
I guess it would be situation dependent, right?
Yeah. If your defense is like super gassed, I could understand being like, "No, give me the ball. Let my offense go out there, chew some clock." Yeah, they're gonna have as much time as they need when they get the ball, but I can give my defense some rest here. I'm confident my offense will score, and even if they don't, at least give my defense enough rest so that they have a chance to get a stop so I can get the ball back. I can understand that logic. Um, but yeah, I would prefer to know that, oh, they didn't score on their first drive. I just got to get to the 40 and I can kick one and win the game that way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So how do you feel? Like you said, you're kind of worried about this Rams offense a little bit. It stumbled a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
you could argue some missed opportunities for the Bears, but they're also a young team. Did you think? Did you think the Rams were outplayed at all during this game from what you saw? Like, what was your takeaway?
There were definitely some drives where I was like, wow, this is better than I thought Chicago would do. And then the Dan Campbell of Ben Johnson got to him while they were like in scoring range and they were
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, 4th and 1, let's go for it."
Mhm.
Like I get it, sure, but you just take the 3 points and it's a completely different game. So, um, that kind of shocks me. Like if I'm on the 25-yard line, I'm probably just taking the 3. I'm just saying, uh, I'm more confident that we're gonna kick for 3 than I am that we're gonna convert here and then continue the drive down, down, down. So, um, they definitely surprised me in certain points where they were running pretty well. Um, I wouldn't say they outplayed the Rams because they were down 7 and it took a Hail Mary backpedaling throw to even get them to tying the game. The last drive they had in overtime, I thought they were looking good, and then DJ Moore decides that he doesn't want to run for the football, and
Right.
then next thing you know, the game's over. That one kind of pissed me off a little bit. Either way, they were not on the same page, which is a problem. Game on the line, you need to be on the same page. Uh, so I think the Rams were the better team here. I think this is better for the playoffs. I think they'll put up a better fight against the Seahawks. So I'm okay with how the game ended, in the outcome.
Yeah, it seems like the Rams escaped death, right? They only win by 3. You didn't get any touchdowns from Matt Stafford. Granted, you got good drives out of him. You put up 20 points, but it's cold weather, so you expect low scoring. Um, but you get 3 turnovers from Caleb. And again, you get that, as you said, that whole DJ Moore, Caleb miscommunication. That's what you seem to see out of younger teams, right? So it does seem like the right team won overall, but it does also seem like they escaped death a little bit. So ultimately, I cannot wait to see a third Rams Seahawks matchup. Um, and I thought this was a great game. I really did. I think it's a memorable game, and obviously the memorable Caleb Williams play. Um, but you do wonder with how loaded that division is in the NFC North. Like I see, like I we'll talk about the Bears and we'll talk about the teams that lost here in a sec. I do think the Bears have a promising future, but it is one of those plays where it's like, all right, the Lions will be back next year, the Packers will be back next year, the Vikings are going to be tough next year too. Like, when are you going to get this opportunity again? You should get it
Was
soon, but
this was this year's Chicago Bears last year's Washington Commanders? Is
mm,
that's kind of the question. Not
mm.
necessarily injury wise, but just end result wise. Does everything kind of come tumbling down next year? That I don't know.
So really quickly, let's go through, and we'll start with the Bears here because we just ended with that game, Bears Rams. What would you like to see the Bears offseason look like? Initially, gut feeling, what do you think their next season looks like? And then any other comments or questions you might have about the Chicago Bears. But in general, what would you like to see them do? How do you think that division might look next year? Like, what do you think this outlook looks for them in 2026?
Off-season wise, draft wise, and like player acquisition wise, I think they are going to go heavily into the defense.
Mm,
Um, that was kind of their issue this year, and it was covered up by them winning 7 fourth quarter comeback games. Like they were a winning football team, they won their division. Uh, the defense was bad. I'm pretty sure it was like 30th in yards allowed per game. They just happened to get turnovers and pivotal points and then win football games. So I think they'll heavily go into the defense, get some back end help in the secondary, maybe an edge rusher. And I think that can make them stay right where they are, like right around a 10-win team. I think I'm going to make a bit of a bold call and say that the Packers are a sub 500 team next year. Um, and I think the Vikings would be right there with them. So I think this is still a good division. But this was a good division this year, and only 2 teams made the playoffs. So,
Tim, I got to tell you. So, my good friend Joe Gagner, shouts to Joe, cuts my hair. He's a big Bears fan. He's asked me about the Pats, and like I told you, I gave him the whole thing I just gave you about the Pats. I'm not sure how great they are, this and that. We're talking about the Bears. I said the same thing to him you just said about the Packers. I'm like, hey man, that's gonna be a great division next year. It's gonna be tough for the Bears. But man, I could kind of see the Packers falling off. It's funny that we had that same idea for them next year because it's not really anything in particular that has to do with their roster. They just seem like the team that would fall off. The Vikings ended the season well. The Lions are going to have a super easy schedule, we think, and they already have tons of talent. And the Bears are just on good vibes right now. Here's what I would say about the Bears. I agree with you. I think they're going to try to load up on that defense, and they already had the most takeaways. And it seems like the last couple of years they ranked pretty highly in defense, actually, which is kind of weird that they fell off this year.
with Eberflus, they were a good defense. They just couldn't win games, especially because Justin Fields was there.
Right.
But the defense was like his thing. He was a defensive coach, so it made sense that the defense was good. And then it fell off when you hired an offensive coach. That makes sense. They just got to get the right roster there.
For sure. For sure. You guys have heard me talk on this podcast about the Bears, talking about how I'm not sure how they're good. I'm not sure how they're in divisional weekend. I actually picked them to go to championship weekend. They have a ton of talent. I kind of grew to really like this team down the stretch here. They proved they could play in big games. They proved they can play up to the competition. Here's the thing, and maybe I'll get crucified for this. Maybe I'm not sure if they're well coached yet. I'm still not sure just yet. They were the cardiac Bears for a reason. They were behind in a lot of these games and had to win in crazy fashion in a lot of these games. That would have happened with this Rams game just this past Sunday. It was going to be another cardiac bear scenario. It, in fact, was another cardiac bear scenario. They just didn't win. So I don't, obviously Ben Johnson's not a bad coach, but I'm not sure he is of the ilk of the other three. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of Matt LaFleur conversations over the offseason. But, you know, all three of them have maybe not elite coach, but they're all considered great coaches in Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell, and Matt LaFleur. Ben Johnson, I'm just not sure yet. I like the attitude they took. I like how fun of a team and how they kind of clung to how fun of a team they were, which is very anti-Chicago. Chicago's more of usually a hard-hitting defense, just hard-nosed type of team, and they were more high-flying, hang on the edge of your seat type of team and type of game style they played. So I really don't know what Ben Johnson is because, again, we saw some of the Dan Campbell stuff. I mean, I still don't really know how they won that Packers game. I thought that first half was some of the worst coaching I'd seen with how he was repeatedly going for it on fourth down. Thought he put him in the hole because he wouldn't just take field goals or wouldn't just punt the ball away. So I don't expect this team to fall off. I think if they can build around the edges, this could be an absolutely scary team next year. But I think if they were to fall off, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of these decisions come back to bite Ben Johnson. So we'll see. But in general, this could be a team and probably will be a team. The four of us, you, Brandon, Keenan, and I are all talking about maybe for Super Bowl or at least championship weekend come next fall. Moving on to the other NFC team, San Francisco 49ers. We talked about earlier, they lose Robert Saleh. What do you expect this team to look like moving forward, whether it's with the DC, whether it's with the roster? We know Ayuk's not going to be there next year. How do you think it falls for them? And another tough division in the NFC West.
This one, I kind of feel really bad about the 49ers.
Mm,
I feel like the 49ers are moving into the Commanders of last year, where the average age of the roster was like 31 years old. All their pieces are old, and it's like that's going to come back to bite them eventually. And I think
mhm,
it's this season.
mm,
We got CMC. He finally gets a full season, but he's getting older. You're not going to have Kittle back. Even if he does come back, he's not going to be the same the first year back. Ayuk's not there. It's going to be Purdy. Juwan's a free agent, so they got to deal with that. And then Ricky Pearsall are really the only two pieces that they know are going to be there for sure. And
mhm.
I expect CMC to be back. I don't expect him to be a 2,000 yard CMC, I don't think, or a 100 catch CMC. I don't think that that's in the cards at this age. So I could see it going downhill. And like we've talked about, they've got the Rams, they've got the Seahawks. Those are two tough teams to play against 2 times a year um, in their division there. So that could just be it right there. Is they're just unlucky in the division, and that kind of keeps them out. Shanahan's a good enough coach where they should be, even if they're a bad team, they should be like around 500. Like I think he could kind of Kevin O'Connell it and get right to the 500 line at the end of the season. But I don't think next year will be too bright for them. I
Mm.
think that that's like their recovery year, that's their rest year, and then the year after that, maybe they have some pieces from the draft classes and from free agency to get there. Well, like we saw it 2 years ago. They lose Sala. The defense didn't look nearly as good the next year. That's like their one saving grace is that they're going to get Fred Warner and Nick Bosa back. You know, they're going to get defensive pieces back now. So if they can fill the role there, then maybe the defense is good enough. I just think the offense is a little too old at this point. They're going to need some rebuilding here. I think Ayuk actually did them a major favor by not reporting because he voids his contract by doing that. So they no
Mm.
longer owe him any money. Like any guaranteed money has been voided because he decided not to report to the team. So he frees up a lot of money over the next few years that they're able to go and get some pieces. So I think he did him a favor.
I agree with you. I think there's a version of this team that could completely fall off next year, but I don't expect it. I would like to see them replenish their offensive line a little bit because they're so Trent Williams dependent. They kind of go on if he starts or not. If he's injured for whatever reason, that team kind of falls apart. Um, I would obviously like to see them get another running back and have kind of a 1-2 punch. We're kind of well actually with Brian Robinson this year, but like I feel like they could get another young guy and kind of have a trio of running backs. I think that could serve them well. Um, they seem to, for whatever reason, they're able to put whoever at wide receiver and get whatever out of them. It doesn't seem like they need an all-pro guy there, but they seem to find guys who play well within the system in different styles too. Like Ayuk plays different from Jennings, plays different from how Debo played. Uh, what's my man's name? The one that was getting deep on him. Was it not Denard Robinson?
Demarcus.
Demarcus Robinson. Uh,
Yep.
so they can find receivers. I agree with you. I think the biggest thing is getting a real DC in there that can at least do 75% of what Salah did. You're getting health back in general, like you said, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. That'll automatically boost your defense. But if you can get a real defensive coach in there who can, get them to play above their means in general, then you're okay. Um, two other saving graces that I think will save them next season, if you truly had any worries about them, is that they were a wild card team, so they'll play a third place schedule. Who knows if that actually means anything, but it could. Um, and the fact that I do think Purdy has taken a leap and is a real QB, right? I mean, I thought he played, obviously, this last game notwithstanding, thought he played pretty damn well down the stretch. I thought he was playing close to elite football. So, hey, if you can draft well, get some weapons, shore up that defense and offensive line a little bit, you might be okay. And the Rams, I don't want to say they're living on borrowed time, but every year that goes by and Matt Stafford starting at QB, just another year older, right? And he's a target. He's a target back there. He can't really move. So 17 game season on top of that, we saw just this year. Cardinals aren't going to be a factor next year. We don't anticipate. So if they can at least just stay in the hunt next year, stay in the picture on top of drafting well, who knows with this team? But they're definitely in a tough spot with those other two teams in the division. However, I do think they can compete. But I'm very interested in their offseason, probably more than most teams. I'll let you pick here. Would you rather talk about the Texans or the Buffalo Bills?
Probably the Texans. I feel like we've talked about the Bills quite a bit.
Sure.
The Texans, it's so tough. Like, I meant to say this last time we had a pod. The NFL, I get it. The more primetime games you get, the more views you get, the better ratings you get. But putting that game on Monday affected whether or not Nico could play in the game. Because one more day in concussion protocol might have got him there. It really might have.
Maybe.
That's a big deal. A lot of people get a concussion, and 1 week out, they're playing in the next game. It's more common now that they miss, but it's not unlikely that they can play in that game. So stop doing that. Let's put the game on Sunday and just play 3 Sunday, 3 Saturday.
Completely
that just makes
agree.
more sense.
Completely agree.
Because if they had played that game, if they just got luck of the draw and they played that game Saturday morning or Saturday at 1, I think Nico probably would have played in the game on Sunday. So that would have changed the game. I'm trying to think, like, if I really believe the Texans would have won if Nico was there.
I think it's
And
at
in the
least a
long
game.
run, oh yeah. Like, I think it was already a close enough game, but I think it would have been a 3-point game if Nico was there. He completely changes how that offense runs. I would like to see they took their shot this year in the draft, and they drafted 2 second-round wide receivers. So I would like to see them be able to kind of beefing up the O-line can't ever hurt, but maybe they need more targets because, like, the 2 they took, they had pieces, they had games, but it wasn't enough to, like, win them games, especially this weekend. The defense is already good enough. Like, you don't have to change anything. Just maintain the defense,
Add
and
to
they'll
it
be
if you
good
have to.
enough. Yeah, if you want, add another D tackle or a linebacker. I always forget his name. It's like Aziz Al-Shir. Shair. I hate him. He's a phenomenal linebacker. He's fast. He hits hard. I just think he's like a scummy player. When you watch him, he's always like, if he tackles you, he's pushing off of you to get up. He's not like the definition of like sportsmanship. He won't be winning any Man of the Year awards ever in his career. But he is a phenomenal linebacker. Like, he's all over the place, always making plays. I just think he's kind of dirty, which is fine. Every team has that.
So the
Vontez
Vontez Burfict ilk, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
Even Richie Incognito, offensive
Yes,
lineman.
for sure.
Dirty
Richie
man, but he
Incognito
was good at what he
definitely dirty.
did.
He's
Yeah.
definitely dirty.
But I think the defense is great. It's really just like, maybe we could get another running back to spell Woody, and then maybe another wide receiver. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if their first round pick this year was a wide receiver. It wouldn't be like crazy. It wouldn't be smart, probably not, but like, it couldn't hurt them, I don't think.
So they last offseason went out and spent money on their offensive line. And for mixed results, I would say there's times where it looked better in the run game, especially once Woody Marks consistently was playing, because it looked awful early on in the season. But we also saw, like this past week against the Pats and the Steelers, honestly, not too great. Stroud was under siege a lot. So I'd still like to see them probably spend more money on offensive line rather than drafting. And I agree with you. Go get some more weapons. Get another running back, even. Go get another running back to go with Woody Marks. I agree. Go get some more wide receivers. You're going to have Tank Dell come back, but who the hell knows what that's actually going to look like? That was a devastating injury. But they will have him week 1, I'm assuming. So more weapons, bro. Add to the defense. Like in late rounds, like pick weapons on defense and like take chances because yeah, that defense has a chance to be and already is probably special. Uh, I think because I think D'Amico Ryans is a top tier coach. I do. We'll say top 10, right? I think if CJ at all has an average looking season next year, especially if they spend money on weapons, I think you're going to start to hear like trade talk with him or is this the guy talk with him because it's been now 2 years removed and he's looked shaky enough. And I do think he deserves some grace again for this past Saturday because of, again, no Nico Collins. And, I don't think the offensive personnel is great aside from Nico. But hey, man, if they again try to really improve this offense, and he doesn't look the part, which at times he doesn't, yeah, man, I could see a world where there's, hey, is this guy the real deal? Is he the right guy for the Houston Texans? Because yeah, that's a Super Bowl roster in waiting if everything breaks the right way. That's also going to be a tough division. Colts might take a step back, but the Jags are going to be someone you're going to have to deal with moving forward. So it'll be a very interesting offseason and season in general for them moving forward with CJ Stroud because man, that game went about as poorly as it could for him, um, especially with them having chances deep into the second half, still being in that game. Um, Buffalo Bills. Tell me who your dream hire would be for them, and what do you think this offseason looks like for them? Do you have faith that they can actually? And I know you said earlier that regardless, because they have Josh Allen, like they're probably still going to be a good team, especially with the Dolphins and Jets not being viable contenders. What do you think it looks like? Like what are we looking at here for the Bills' next iteration?
This is like a really tough one to predict. Um, because Sean McDermott's gone, like you can look at every other open job and just be like, yeah, the dream hire is Sean McDermott.
Mm,
But then the Bills got to replace him with somebody. I don't even know if there is a dream hire. Um, to be honest with you, I think the dream hire is they hire somebody that's wrong and that they suck next year. And then the GM's like, oh shit, maybe we did do the wrong thing by firing one of the best coaches in the league. Yeah, I think they're gonna get McCarthy. That's really
mm,
what I think happens. I don't know if that's even like the dream. I don't even like I to me, I don't think like you said you thought it was more of a lateral move. I think McCarthy's a step down,
mm,
especially if it comes to like coaches that can't win in the postseason. Yeah, Sean McDermott never did it, and McCarthy did do it. But McCarthy had much better teams fail than I think Sean McDermott did. I think Sean McDermott had a few really good teams fail, um, but it seemed like McCarthy towards the end there had some really, really good teams that just failed in the playoffs. So
uh, two things. We mentioned earlier McDermott has 66% winning percentage. McCarthy's at 60. That's still really good for the NFL. Uh,
yeah, no, he would definitely be an above average coach, and I think I hate on him um, because when I started watching football was kind of like I don't even know. I don't think I watched the Packers Super Bowl that they won. Uh, I think most of what I've seen of McCarthy, like in my memory, is him just losing in the playoffs when he was a huge favorite to
mm,
win. So that's why I'm like recency biased on McCarthy. He is a good coach, and like I
fair
said,
enough.
60% win. He could go into maybe even the Jets and be like a 500 team there. Like he is a good coach. I just hate on him, especially he also coached the Cowboys. So
True, true. Let me throw another coach at you that's been rumored for this job, and this would be very interesting to me. And that's your former head coach, Brian Dable. How would you feel about that? He had obvious success with Josh Allen as the OC, but how would
mm-hmm.
you feel about him having a pretty checkered tenure for the
Yep.
Giants to then just walking into a Super Bowl job because he had a good OC tenure with Josh Allen and past history with the Bills? How would you feel about that if they were to hire him?
I think Buffalo would like half of Buffalo would riot, and the other half would be like, but he did so good with us, so they would
Mhm.
kind of like look past his time in New York. I don't know if that would be a great fit. I think Dable, I don't think it was all on him, but I think there was
Correct.
a good amount of stuff that was on him that was worth firing. Um, so, I mean, it's not the worst that they could do, especially with, as of recently, Buffalo being one of the better teams in the league. Maybe it just works out with Dable. I don't think Dable's going to get real head coaching consideration here. Um, one that Brandon had brought up would be to just promote Brady
Yeah.
from OC to head coach, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. You have the connection with all the players; they already respect him. Just let him see if he gets it. I really think that if they don't do that, I think Brady leaves. I think he'll probably just go get an OC job somewhere else. I think it's unlikely that they'll want um, a new head coach to come in, and then the stipulation is like, you can come be the head coach, but we get to pick the offensive coordinator. That's not
Mm.
really how that's not how head coaches typically work. It's usually the other way around. I get to pick my guy.
Mhm.
So um, that'll be interesting to see how those dominoes fall, because Joe Brady could do wonders in Philly.
Mhm.
Um, he kind of revitalized the rushing attack in Buffalo in the last 2 years, since when he took over. And Philly this year looked a little bit anemic when it came to running the football.
Yeah.
So maybe he kind of fixes that, gets Jalen Hurts a lot more designed rushes, and gets him rolling again. That could be great. Um, yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Josh Allen. Obviously, he is a Hall of Fame level QB, but whoever gets this job, they're stepping into also getting an absolute stud in James Cook. We focus on the receiving core. It's average, but they're definitely in sync with Josh Allen, especially Khalil Shakur. Um, and Cooks even like late in the season got legitimate trust from Josh Allen, and he was getting like he can still get deep, um, which is crazy to me. So he seems suitable there. Uh, what I would like to see the Buffalo Bills do, and maybe not like this as a Pats fan, but if I were a Bills fan, what I would want from them, they've been trying to go out and get these veteran defensive linemen that end up getting injured. Go draft a defensive lineman. Go draft a real impact guy for that front seven. Um, because your secondary, it comes and goes. We obviously saw that late in the game. But I think if they can build on that defense a bit, at least get a guy who can get pressure, who can just flip the game, if possible, wherever they're drafting from. If you can get that, or if you can trade up, or even in free agency, if you can get a bit of a younger guy, doesn't even have to be like a star-studded guy necessarily, just a guy who can get pressure. If you can build on that, then you can build on your linebacking core a little bit, and then maybe get a little younger in the secondary. You can already block. We know they can block on offense. Um, then you can open up and try to take chances at receiver, which they've already kind of tried to do with Keon Coleman, who this team is already calling a bust, which fair enough. He had a drop, but then he had that touchdown. So, I guess he's serviceable. But obviously keep trying to put weapons around Josh Allen. They've got it in the backfield. They've got one of the best running games in the entire NFL, especially if you include Josh Allen in that. But really try to get more impact guys on defense. And then truly you gotta nail this head coaching hire. Uh, Tomlin would be a prime candidate for it. Who did we say earlier? Who did we say earlier that'd be a great candidate for these guys? That's a veteran coach. You said it, and it's not coming to me for some reason.
For Buffalo,
For Buffalo, yeah, you said it earlier in the pod.
I think the only one I said was McCarthy.
Oh
There
yeah,
might have
yeah,
been another
McCarthy.
one.
I do think that would be a good hire for them. I don't actually think that's what they're going to do. So I think I'm a little down on whoever they're going to hire, unless it is a promotion for Joe Brady. I think Dable would be interesting. It would not be my first, second, or third choice, but he did have a high appeal after that first year with Daniel Jones, getting the Giants to the playoffs. After that, it kind of fell off. But I will say, you never actually thought the Giants, and maybe you feel different, and maybe other Giants fans feel different. I didn't think they were a complete train wreck under him. I thought things got pretty bad, and I thought there was some bad losses. And of course, that Broncos loss where they gave up 33 in the fourth. But I don't know. They at least seemed, I don't want to say well coached, but they didn't seem like a complete shit show for a guy who had what, 3 straight losing seasons after that playoff berth. We've seen guys do much worse. They at least seemed like a put together product when healthy. Of course, they had some injuries along the way, and of course, they had the whole Russell Wilson experience there too. Um, so I guess I wouldn't all the way hate it. I would be skeptical. I think you'd be making a huge bet going from Sean McDermott to then Brian Dable, but hey, we'll see. I would actually like the Mike McCarthy hiring though. Tim, any final thoughts? We'll be back eventually to talk about the championship games this weekend, but any final thoughts pertaining from Saturday to this Sunday?
None coming to mind.
I think
Oh,
I'm back.
actually, there is kind of one.
Mm,
We keep seeing rumors that Vegas and Baltimore have had discussions about whether they would trade Lamar, and I think it's all
I've not
pivoting.
seen this.
I've seen quite a few posts about the
Really?
rumors that they have the number one overall pick, and if the Ravens are really looking to do a reset right here, they can take Fernando and just give him Lamar and get a bunch of picks with it and
That
get
would be wild.
Fernando and a few firsts and,
Oh my
and kind of
goodness.
roll. I need to see that. I need to see some game changing, league changing trades. I've already predicted that Tua will get traded for Kyler, just straight
Mm,
up. I still think that happens.
mid for mid.
Um, Mid for mid, neither team is in any better of a situation, but at least they accomplished what they wanted, which was to get their quarterback off the roster. Uh, so that it would be great to see Lamar get traded and then see what happens to the Ravens with a rookie QB, with a rookie head coach, with it could be really bad.
I haven't seen this. That sounds insane. That sounds insane. I can't
Yeah.
imagine, but that would shatter the NFL internet, NFL Twitter, all that. That would be one of the most insane things I've ever seen in sports. 1 minute, give me 1 minute on Mendoza before we get out of here. You watched the championship game. You were kind of in the same boat as me, where it's like, all right, if this guy's not an absolute slam dunk, like you don't have to take him first just because you do need a quarterback. Did Monday night sway you in any other direction with his performance?
Not really.
Yeah,
He definitely had some plays like the touchdown run that he had
that was badass.
made me think. Yeah, made me think like, okay, maybe he can run a little bit better than I expected. Um, but I really don't think that moves him up by any means. Um, I think I'm still in the boat of like he will be a good quarterback, like he'll
Mm.
be a Jared Goff or something like that. And if that's what you're looking for, perfect, go get him, and he could be that potential roster turning around quarterback. I just think the ceiling isn't quite there. I don't think it's changed from what I saw against Miami. Uh, Carson Beck, though, that dude's not getting drafted.
Brandon Petty is a generational Carson Beck hater, and I kind of love it, and I understand it. I
It's
was rooting
really
for the
funny.
Hurricanes because, like, I loved the Hurricanes as a kid. Uh, but like when he was talking all that shit, I'm like, all right, let me Google this guy, see what he actually looks like, and I'm like, okay, all right, I get the hate, and that sounded like some profiling there. When all I had to do was see what this kid looked like. Can I even call him a kid if he's like a fucking 8-year veteran in the NFL
Yeah,
or
he's
the
like
fucking NCAA?
35.
Jesus
Dude,
Christ!
that video, okay, the NCAA, you guys got to get something right. I've seen posts about players trying to get an extension for like a valid reason and the NCAA denying their extension request.
Mhm.
And then I see guys like Carson Beck, who is 2 years removed from having class
He's
in
graduated.
college.
He's since graduated.
How can we call him a student athlete if he hasn't been a student for 2 years? And then Brandon
Right.
sends us that post today where a kid in the NBA G League has been given NCAA eligibility to return and play for Alabama.
I think that's the second
What?
instance too. I think that's the second
What?
instance that's happened in the past month.
At at
Unreal.
what point are we just okay, this is the NCAA. It is completely not college anymore. None of these kids are going for college. They're all going for NIL money and just call it like the semi-pro football league or something like that. It blows my mind.
I'm very intrigued to see where college sports is in about 5 years. 10 years especially, because I think it's going to be either non-existent or just completely removed from what we know. But even 5 years from now, man, it's going to I don't know. I don't know. It seems like a shit show. It was hard enough following college sports when like everything was in line. Like it's still just a lot of teams to keep up with. I mean, you got the whole nation, right? Now it's like good fucking luck. It's the wild, wild west out there. Uh, Listen, this is all the time we have for today. This was Kyle. This was Timmy G. We will be back very soon to preview championship weekend. Fun pod. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Music, all that. Tune in, listen, stream. We love it. Comment, keep it up. Peace, y'all.